Welcome everyone to the game between Arjun Erigaisi and Nodirbek Abdusattorov, two of the finest chess players in the world of chess. Nodirbek here takes fort 90 minutes plus 30 seconds increment, and you have an additional 30 minutes after 40 moves are done. It's a very big clash between two of the finest players, and look at that, Nodirbek adjusting all his pieces. Arjun is the current world number 4 and Nodirbek is the current world number 7. So it's like absolutely amazing. It's also India number 1 versus the Uzbek number 1 player, and the clock has started. Arjun arrives 3 minutes late to the game. He takes his chair, and the kind of fighting players that both of them are, we can surely expect a lot of blood being spilled on this game. Let's see what Arjun opens up with. E4, and look at the clock timing. He took close to 5 minutes, for the first move. I mean, he came late, then took couple of minutes. So totally 5 minutes, adjusts all his pieces and presses the clock. Let's see what Nodirbek chooses here. Does he go for the French or the Sicilian? No, he goes for the solid E4, E5. And Arjun adjusts the clock. Knight to F3 played. And Nodirbek now brings his knight out to C6. Nodirbek is currently the sole leader in the tournament with 2.5 out of 3, while Arjun is on 2 out of 3. Bishop B5, we have the Ruy Lopez here. Knight comes out to F6, the Berlin. And I believe that the players have kind of figured out that playing the Berlin against Arjun is a good idea, because he would never play Droish lines. He would never go for castle rook e1 line. Bishop C5 played by Nodirbek, and clearly the trap to be known here is you can't win this pawn queen d4 with a double attack. So he goes C3, and Nodirbek simply castles here. Once again, if you take here, I this time take with the B pawn, and if you take the pawn, I have D5 right into the heart of the position. So Arjun calmly castles, and maybe now he does threaten to take the pawn, and Nodirbek defends it with his rook e8 played. So all these subtle nuances in the opening. Bishop G5 played, pinning the knight. An excellent move by Arjun. The move is meant to sort of complicate the play. H6 played, and Arjun comes back with his bishop. One of the things that is working well for Nodirbek is the fact that the bishop can go back, and he plays it. And once again, we have to calculate. If takes, I take. If you take here, I have this very nice move, knight e4. And after take, and take, it's an equalish position. So bishop e7, bishop g3 played, attacking the pawn on e5. And I guess you have to defend this pawn with d6. So think about it. The bishop on e7 is now passive. It's behind the pawn chain, not outside. But what Nodirbek is contesting is that the bishop on g3 is not really a great piece. So h3 played here. And now Nodirbek goes bishop to d7. Very calmly played here. And sometimes I just enjoy watching chess players making their moves. Especially Nodirbek is someone who makes his moves very calmly, like as if he wants to play it very precisely each move. While when we look at Arjun, the way here, knight h5 played, attacking the bishop. The thing about Arjun making his moves is he presses the clock ever so softly. I guess you want to put your bishop back on h2. But Arjun, yes, he plays it. Bishop h2 on the board. And there could be certain tactics you have to be careful with. Knight takes pawn and the knight hanging here. So Nodirbek plays his bishop to g5. And very interesting move, this bishop g5. Because Arjun can take it And taking with the pawn would be a complete blunder because the knight is hanging. So queen takes, calmly playing it, queen g5. And maybe the knight could come to f4 next. Knight to f3 played, attacking the queen here. And Nodirbek comes back, queen to f6. Can we go for this trick? Yeah, knight e5. Oh, there's rook e5 defending here, also attacking the bishop. And if you take here, I take, and it's completely winning for black. So rook e1 played here by Arjun. He defends his e4 pawn and starts preparing for the d4 break. a6 played. I don't believe you should give up your bishop here. It's the bishop pair that white has. So bishop goes back to c4. But can black now go knight a5 and try to win this? Well, maybe bishop d5. And if c6 played, I can simply take, and play b4, trapping this knight. So very interesting subtle variations there. Knight f4 played by Nodirbek. And he is looking for some attacking options because the knight is looking at g2 and h3 pawns. The bishop is also looking here. d4 played here by Arjun. And rook comes to d8. Bishop to f4 played. And very cool move. Queen takes f4. Black has a lot of nice play in this position, but white also has the center control. Queen c1. And Arjun is like, I'm happy to go into this endgame. I think I'm slightly better. Although the position does look equal. Nodirbek goes back. And he is threatening now. Bishop takes h3, pawn takes, and the knight is hanging. So Arjun calmly brings his queen to e3. And the knight jumps to e7. I think this maneuver is very interesting. He wants to bring his knight to g6 and then to f4. Arjun goes back, bishop f1. He's preparing with g3 perhaps so that the knight cannot come in and the h3 pawn is defended. So Nodirbek does play knight to g6. And now what about g3? I believe g3, there's this very nice move d5 and suddenly this queen opposite the rook would be a bit uncomfortable. So king h2 played here. And Arjun playing this a little weirdly, giving Nodirbek some chances. He takes the pawn. He takes d4, 58 minutes to Nodirbek, 36 minutes to Arjun. Arjun doesn't really play so slow. So maybe this is one of the first times that he would be low on time than his opponent by such a big margin. c5 played. And it's a good move by Nodirbek because if you take here on c5, I can go bishop c6 even to put pressure here. He goes queen d2, defending the b2 pawn, keeping an eye on the d4 pawn, and he would love to play d5 next. So pawn takes pawn is definitely possible. But Nodirbek goes bishop c6. He's kind of asking Arjun to push his pawn to d5. He's provoking him. And I guess Arjun is going to be provoked because that's the best move. d5 played. And bishop comes to b5, offering a trade of bishops. I'm not so sure if you want to take it as Arjun because he does take it. Because after takes, you will see that the a file has opened up. And these two pawns do put some pressure on these queenside white pawns. So Nodirbek's position looks little bit more comfortable. Rook a8, again a nice move, and the ideas are very unique, like rook a4, rook a8 with the idea of b4 putting pressure on e4. So Arjun goes rook e3. He keeps an eye on this pawn, also keeps an eye on the a3 pawn. But now with the rook on a1 being undefended, Nodirbek pushes the pawn to b4. You can't take here. Your rook is absolutely hanging. So you have to move away your rook. He goes rook e1. But now b takes a3. and it will lead to a weakened pawn on the a file for white. It does take ba, and Arjun takes back with the rook. Rook takes a3. Nodirbek now picks up the rook. Rook takes a3. And after b takes a3, this pawn is alone and weak. And after rook a8, it will be put under a lot of pressure. b5 played here. Wow. Nodirbek, known for his grinding skills here, is definitely pushing. Look at him. His body language, very powerful. Queen e3 played here by Arjun. While it's true that it's difficult to subdue Arjun here, queen b2 looks like a very powerful move. He finds it. Queen b2. Now the queen is looking at f2, a3. Rook is ready to join here. Oh my goodness. Even at some point, f5 might not be something that you can ignore. Rook e2. And now queen b1 feels like the right move. Keeping an eye on the pawn here on e4. Does play queen b1. "38 minutes for Nodirbek, 16 minutes for Arjun. Plays his knight to d2. Time shouldn't be an issue because they are at move 34. Only 6 more moves to make. And now queen a1. Maybe a slight inaccuracy. Queen a2 would have been better. Just keeping the queen active here. But queen a1 and now rook e1 played. So Arjun trying to smoke the queen away. If you go queen b2, I believe rook b1 is a strong move. So he comes back, queen e5 check. And do you play g3 now or do you go back king g1? He plays his pawn to g3. Who knows, maybe someday Arjun would want to expand in the center with f4. Queen goes to b2. Maybe not the best move here. You could have played rook a8 first, keeping an eye here, but queen b2 now allows rook b1. I wonder what Abdusattorov has on his mind. With queen b2, Arjun takes his time and finds the move, rook b1. Good move here. And Nodirbek's pawn on b5 is hanging. He plays queen to c2. And can Arjun snatch a free pawn? Yes, he does it. Arjun thinks for almost quite a lot of time, coming down to 9 minutes, but he believes in his position. He takes it. And what is it that Nodirbek has on his mind? Well, he wants to go c4. He wants to play c3. He wants to come down with his pawn. He wants to bring his rook behind the pawn. King g2. Arjun brings his king here to g2. A very important move, by the way. Defending f2 pawn. c3 played here. And c3 attacks the knight on d2. If you go knight b1 trying to win the pawn, rook c8 finishes off the game. The knight is trapped almost. So knight to f3 has to be played. And now if you take rook takes e4, there's one way to play. But then I have knight d4 attacking the queen. So Nodirbek goes rook c8. He keeps an eye on the c3 pawn. Queen goes to e1. A very good move by Arjun because he is getting ready for rook b1 and rook c1 here. Plays his queen to d3. Presses the clock. We have crossed move 30, move 40 here. 30 minutes added on the clock. The queen attacks the rook. How strong is the pawn here? Arjun has gone on full defensive mode. He goes back rook b1 and rightly so. c2 played by Abdusattorov. And I guess the idea is now to go rook c1. Meanwhile, Arjun will lose the pawn here on a3, his extra pawn. But he's also going after the c2 pawn with queen d2. So here queen d2 with the idea here, and then knight e1 to attack this pawn on c2. So queen comes to d2. And queen a4, keeping an eye here on the c2 pawn. Queen e2 played to defend the e4 pawn, and rook comes in to c4. Nodirbek does, and he comes back. What an interesting moment here, because now if rook takes c2 and it's gone. So Nodirbek comes back attacking the pawn this way, and I believe Arjun might just repeat. Yes, he plays queen e2. Rook c4 played, attacking the pawn on e4. Queen comes to d2. f6 played. Nodirbek wants to continue the game. He wants to keep fighting. But now knight e1. That's a good move. And Arjun has rounded up this pawn. So Nodirbek takes the pawn. Now important to take with the knight, not with the rook, because if you take with the rook, rook e1 is winning for black. So knight c2. And the knight will sit well on e3. He does play rook c4, but Nodirbek does realize that his advantage has withered away. So knight to e3 played, attacking the rook on c4, takes on c1, queen takes on c1, check. King g1 played. The knight is coming to e5. Yes, knight e5. Well, is this risky with a check coming in? So check on c8. If king f7, well, maybe king h7 is possible, but there is queen f5 trading the queens. So king f7, queen e6 check. King goes to g6. And he takes the pawn. Queen takes d6 here. So in comes a check. Knight to f3 check. King comes up to g2. Arjun about to leave the clock, finally about to leave the piece, leaves it on g2. And I believe Nodirbek is ready to repeat here, because there's no other way. I mean, the knight on e3 controls the g2 square, so check. And maybe Arjun can try for something with king f1, king e2. I don't know if that would work, like here king f1, but then he might even lose this pawn on h3. So maybe it's the best for Arjun to just agree to a draw, check, and he offers a draw. Nodirbek accepts it, and the players have drawn their game. A very fighting game, I must say. Nodirbek put immense pressure on Arjun, and what I loved now is how both the players interacted with each other after the game. So let's tune in. Maybe we can't hear much, but we will definitely see their enthusiasm.